Okay, welcome to another SaaStock event. My name is Matic and I will be your host today. In this episode, I'm really honored to have Emeric from Agorapulse. He's a co-founder and CEO. It's a Paris-based social media management software with more than 120 employees and nearly 20 million in annual recurring revenue. He likes to talk straight, and one of his superpowers is relationship building. Emeric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matic. Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with your early days. So you actually graduated in New York, but it was not in a business school. You were not in the IT. So how it all started?
How the adventure, the Agorapulse adventure started?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was a business lawyer by trade, right? That's what I studied. That's how I started my career. A couple of years after I started being a business lawyer, working for an American law firm, I decided to quit and create my own business, and I did that in July of 2000 with my co-founder Ben. And our project back then was community building software in white label for brands that were called affinities. That's what we pivoted to after a year of failing at trying to build Facebook. That's basically what we tried to build in 2000, but wrong country, wrong time. And as you know, when you're starting a business, timing is everything. And we got the timing wrong for social networking, which became a thing 6 years after. Yeah, 4 or 5 years after at least, and probably more. So that's how it started. It was a long time, journey of struggle from 2000 until 2012. We were trying to sell affinities. That was a SaaS, that was social, but that was a white label, build your own social network kind of software. For those of you who are old enough, we were an equivalent of Ning and ING, a software that was created by Gina Bianchini and Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape and at the board of Facebook, and he was also co-founder of Ning at the time. So we did that before Ning. Ning was not a success. We were not a success. Right now, you have a lot of different software, like trying to think out loud. The one Gina Bianchini left Ning because it was bought, and then she's starting something else. That's also a build your own community because we're considering it right now. And I forgot, Mighty Networks, that's the name. So if you're trying to look at software that help you build your own community, Mighty Networks is one of them. Affinities back then was doing that with the technologies and look and feel and design of the year 2005 2010. So obviously now they look better and they work better and they're mobile and stuff, but that's what we were trying to do. It's been a struggle. Well, it had been a struggle for 10 years when we decided to pivot to Agorapulse, which in the early days was a Facebook contest and promotion. So build a contest on your Facebook page, gather more fans, like to enter, all that stuff. Again, if you're old enough and you were around in 2010, 2011, you remember this good old time where every brand and their sister were running contests on their page to get more fans and hire more, grow their audience on Facebook. That's how we started, and obviously didn't work. Well, it worked better than Affinities, the previous software, but the churn was really, really high. So we realized that we had to pivot to a business that was building a product that people are using day to day and not once a year, which was contest and promotion on Facebook at the time. So we pivoted to the Agorapulse you have today, well, at least the early days of that, which was a social media management tool that helps you help people manage Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We started with Facebook only, contest and promotion. We expanded to Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then inbox management, publishing, and so on and so forth. So it's a long journey. It's a lot of struggle. We don't have time here, but basically what you need to remember about that journey is basically for 10 years, I was having another job because I couldn't make a living with Affinities, the previous company, the previous software. So I was having another job running companies for other people that I knew wanted someone to manage their business, like the finance and the sales, like the not the product side of the business, because I've never understood anything about the product the companies were selling. One of them was hip replacement device, and the other one was a system to empty fuel tanks of cargo ships, or container ship, or even oil carriers, huge ships. So that the guy had invented a system where you could, a salvage vessel could come in and plug, and then all the oil would go up in the tank, up where if the tank the ship has sunk. And so I didn't know anything about the product, but I was good at doing the day-to-day management of the money and the finance and the accounting and managing the sales and the marketing and stuff. So I did that for 10 years and was doing affinities for free. That was a pro bono. That was my hobby, my tennis, my football, name it the way you want. Not making money with it. And the early days of Agorapulse were also a struggle, because we've never raised significant amount of money. So the small amount of money that we've raised along the way were really there to just save the day and pay for the little losses that we were accumulating every month, like the 4K, 5K losses we were making every month. But we were almost bootstrapping everything from the ground up. So I had my first decent salary. And when I say decent salary, I'm thinking of $3,000 a month in 2015. So that gives you an idea of how long it took me to get to a point where life was not a struggle anymore.
So a decent salary for French standards. So
yeah. Oh, not anymore today. If you tell me is 3,000 a decent salary for you today, I said nah. But at the time, I was happy to get 3,000.
How big was your team at the beginning? Since you worked two jobs, let's say. How big was your team?
It was my co-founder and I until 2008, and then we had one more developer, and then so that was 3, and then one more, Florian, who happened to be my brother. He's still with us today. He's our head of engineering. That was 4. And then in 2011, we hired Christelle, who is our head of customer care, support, and success today. It was her first job. That was 5. And Seb, who is now our head of product. That was 6. And I think we were 6. When we launched Agorapulse, we were 6 people. And we stayed 6 for the first year, for sure.
What was the point in 2016 that you reached the product market fit? And how did you know it?
Yeah, so at the end of 2015, we reached break even. So we got to 100,000 euro of MRR, and that was our break even point, because at that time we were like a dozen people, and basically consider that for one person you need 10K per month of MRR. So 10K is one person, pays for one person, and all the expenses associated to it, the office and the travel and so on and so forth. So we were probably a dozen at the end of 2015, or close to maybe 12. Like, it's not necessarily 10. And 2016 was a great year. We grew by 150%. So we started at 100,000 K, ended the year at 250 K, and that was the first year where I could feel traction. Well, at least that level of traction. And what made that year be what it was is obviously a bunch of things. That's the accumulation of awareness that we've built over time, and so on and so forth. But there was one thing that we did. One thing that we did is that the first value proposition of Agorapulse was the best social media inbox you can get. And we launched that in 2014. And we really were, on that market, the best social inbox you can get. That's why we had a social inbox 0 as our motto, and we were putting that everywhere. And that would help us break even, because at the time the market was already competitive. There were already the Sprout Social and the Hootsuite and the Buffer, and like there were already a bunch of tools that had a lot better, much better awareness, brand awareness than we had. But we were doing the inbox, social inbox, like 10 times better than anybody. Hootsuite was a piece of crap. Sprout didn't even have one, or almost none. Buffer didn't. So basically, if you were having a lot of engagement and a lot of incoming comments and private message and stuff like that on your social networks, on your social profile, we were the only solution. And that's what helped us, came up and at least get to 100K, because if you don't have anything that's really special at any given point in time in your market, and there's already competition and it's richer than you and it's bigger than you and it has already much more brand awareness, and there's nothing special about you, you're screwed. Let's face it. There's no way people are going to choose you instead of the one they've been hearing about for a long time and everybody talks about. So that's how we started and how we get 200K. How we move from 100 to 250 is we got started because of the inbox, but the main use on social is publishing. It's not inbox. It's not responding to people. It's posting content. It's posting stuff. And our publishing feature was shit in 2014 and 15. In 16, we released a decent one. I'm not saying not a great one, just a decent one. And that decent one, because everybody was about, I need publishing, suddenly helped, boost the traction in 2016.
What would you say to the founders, maybe first time founders, not to give up? Because looking for product market fit or being profitable for 5, 6, 7 or more years, a lot of people will give up. Especially nowadays, you see people, they give up after a year. So and maybe it's the right thing to give up if you see that you're not growing. But what would you say that gives you the energy and enthusiasm to keep pushing?
Well, what I would advise them to do is to go on Google and search for a talk by Gail Goodman, who was the co-founder and CEO of Constant Contact. And the name of her talk is called The Long SaaS Ramp of Death. The Long SaaS Ramp of Death. You can go on Google and search for it and watch that. That's what I watched and what made me not give up and what made me continue. And basically, it is someone who has been extremely successful because she sold Constant Contact for $1.3 billion 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I forgot, but several years ago. And she's had one of the most chaotic journey that you can have in for a company that raised, had several runs of founding. She got diluted, and the worst happened to her, like the worst of the worst. But she made it. She got a very successful business and eventually sold it. And she explains in that video how difficult it's been and what she took as a guideline for not giving up. And long story short, don't give up if every month it keeps going up and to the right. Don't give up if you can feel the progress that's getting you closer to where you want to get to. But do give up if it's stagnating and there's no progress and it's been 6 months and the MR after 6 months is still the same as it was 6 months ago. Give up in that situation. But if you are at 3,000 MR and next month you're at 3,500, and the month after you're at 4,000, and the month after you're at 5,000, and then you're at 6,000, and then you're at 8,000, then don't give up, because you're onto something. It's slow, it's painful, but it's going to get you somewhere.
You mentioned raising money and you bootstrapped. Why didn't you raise any money along the way? You raised money in 2019, if I'm
Yeah.
correct.
Yes and no. We didn't raise money along the way because I tried and nobody wanted to invest in us. I'm being very direct here. Like I being bootstrap was not a philosophical choice or a religious choice. I don't have any philosophical views on money and VCs and funding. It's actually more comfortable to have money when you grow a business than not have any. I mean, when I'm telling you that I had my first decent salary in 2015, and so I didn't pay myself decently for 15 years, you are allowed to think I'm crazy, because I am. Most people don't want to live that. Most people want to have a decent life and not depend on their spouse to put food on the table and pay the rent. But I was in that position. When you raise money, you have some level of comfort, which is cool. We couldn't. We tried, and we didn't get. Basically, we were not sexy. Nobody wanted to invest in social media in 2014 or 15. So we did raise a little bit of money. To be perfectly transparent and honest, we raised a total of probably 250,000 euros from business angels from 2001 until 2009 included. All that was burned into the affinities business. Those business angels were close friends of mine who had been successful in their own business. And in 2012, we raised 250,000 for Agorapulse, only for Agorapulse. So we had some left others for the previous funding, maybe 50, 60. So let's a total of 300,000 was raised and used to grow Agorapulse. So that's very little money. Sprout Social raised $270 million. Hootsuite raised $265 million. So our 250,000 are just ridiculous compared to the giant in our industry. But at least that helped us go through the harsh days that we had to go through during that period. So if I had the opportunity to raise a little bit more money, I probably would have. That's the first thing. The second thing is about the 2019. So in 2019, if you search Google for Agorapulse fundraising or funding or whatever, you're going to find that we had a 16.5 million fundraising, but most of it is secondary. Secondary meaning that they didn't invest money in the company; they bought existing shares from existing shareholders. So what we did with that, we exited two of our business angels, the famous two close friends who invested into 2001 and 2009. They exited in 2019, and we also exited the small seed fund called StarQuest, who invested in us in 2012 and exited in 2019. And we replaced them by more mature VC fund that are more aligned with what we need right now. And so that gave a good exit to the business angels and the seed fund. I'm happy for them. They made very good money thanks to us, and I'm proud of that. And it allowed us to get new partners to rely upon in 2019 and forward. And my co-founder and I, we also got a little bit of cash out of that transaction. So I bought a house. I just moved in last week, that house, and my co-founder also bought a house. So that the reasoning behind this was, we want to take this company to the next step. We think there's a lot of potential, and we don't feel like we could take the necessary risk and be bullish enough to get to the next step if we don't de-risk ourselves a little bit by taking some cash off the table. If everything you have in life is your company and you have never taken any kind of cash, and you rent your house, you rent your car, you rent your vacation home, you rent everything, and you don't own anything, there's a point where every move you make for the business will feel risky because that's all you own, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a point where selling a little bit of it to get some cash and buy a house makes you more relaxed, so you can go and hit the gas again and take some more risk. So that was the 2019 fundraising.
Cool. Let's go back to post product market fit. You went from 5-10 people to now 120. So how did you start building the team? And I heard that you have this monthly ask me anything with your employees. So what is the transparency? What does the transparency means to you? And how important is for the business, in your opinion?
Yeah, so it's a lot of question in one question. How do you build a team? That's the hardest thing on earth. I don't think we can cover that in less than 1 hour. It's number one, it's your most important role and it's your most important thing. And number two, it's hard as fuck. and it's constant learning. So if there is one thing that the people who are listening to this can learn from, is there's a book that you should all go and read that's called Who, W-H-O. It's a book about hiring and how to hire right. And it's basically giving you a framework for hiring the best possible people, and to do carry on the hiring process in a way that you gain certainty about the fact that the person you're going to hire is the right person for you. And you should probably read that book as soon as you have your first hiring to make. I didn't. I waited way too long, and that what that does is you do what the book called voodoo hiring too much, i.e. you don't know why, but you like that person, so you go ahead and hire them, and sometimes it works out fine, but sometimes it's a nightmare, and that's because you didn't do it correctly, and you did voodoo hiring instead. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'd say about building a team is that you need to build the team you need today. You need to build a team that's the team that will take you from 1 to 5 if you're at 1 million AR, or 0 to 1 if you're at 0. 5 to 10, 15 if that's where you are, 15 to 50 if that's where you are. But there are people who will adapt and evolve and question themselves and relearn and reinvent themselves, and who will accompany you along the way. Those people exist, but not everyone is like that. And there are people who are going to be great from 0 to 1, or 1 to 5, or 5 to 15, or etc., etc., but will not be the right people in the next step. And the hardest thing on earth is to part way with them when they're not a good fit for the company or you anymore. And we all make the same mistake. We do that too late. Like, we wait too long, we get too attached, emotionally attached, and it feels it hurts, it's difficult, we don't want to have the conversation with you. But at the end of the day, the job of the founder and CEO is to build a team, and build a team that builds a team. And if you don't have the best team, your chances of success are thin. Your chances of success are thin anyway. But with the wrong team, they're even thinner, and you definitely want to do the hard things to get the best possible team. The third thing I would say is culture and values, and it's absolutely crucial. So you talked about transparency. Transparency is part of our culture, but I don't even think there is the transparency word in our culture, but it's by default. We share a lot of stuff. We share our numbers. Every month we do a monthly recap of how the month has been in terms of churn, new MRR by region. So we share a lot of stuff on our financials and our metrics. We even share, we don't do it on a monthly basis, but for example, during COVID, we shared how much cash we had in the bank, how long we had as runway, just so people didn't feel in danger, financially speaking. And we reassured them, we have cash, we can go through the storm, we can sustain the storm, don't worry. So we're pretty transparent with that. My view on transparency is that you have to be transparent on what matters to the people, to your people. So, and I think what matters to your people is your financial health. They want to know. They need to know, because they're working towards building the financial success, the commercial success, hence the financial success of your business. So you got to be transparent with them about how that's going. And it's especially true if you're going through tough times and hardship and it's difficult. If you are hiding things from them in those difficult moments, you're probably going to struggle to get them to invest and to engage in those difficult moments to help you save the day. Because if they see that things are difficult, but they don't know how, they don't know how deep or how bad, and they feel like it's not transparent and the truth is being hidden, they'll say, why would I work my ass off with this company that looks in trouble and that does not even share the reality with me? Fuck you, I'm going to go work somewhere else. If they know what's going on and you're super transparent, they're going to say, okay, I trust you because you're being transparent with me. I understand we're in trouble. I'll go and help, because no, I know where we are and I know what we can do about it, and you're not trying to hide anything from me, you're being truthful. So I'm going to be truthful to you as well, and I'm going to do my part and help you out. So being transparent about financials and the financial health is absolutely necessary in both good and bad days. So that's about transparency. And about culture and values. As a founder and CEO in the early days, the culture and values is basically you. It's you. Everything that transpires through you, from you, becomes the culture and the values of the company. As the company grows beyond, let's say, a dozen people, it's probably a good idea to at least write them down. Like, at least, put them on paper, because in the early days they're in the air, like they're here. Everybody can feel that. Nobody knows exactly why and what they are, but you can feel the culture of a company and the values of the company, because you're all in the same room, you're all working your ass off together, going having a beer after work, and it's very, very compact and connected. As you get to a dozen, it's a little bit less than that, and it's probably a good idea to, let's write this down. This thing that we feel at the office that we have, let's write this down. And when you start getting between, let's say, 30 and 50, you absolutely have to have a culture document that you share. We have a value document that I share with every new team member. I spend an hour and 30 minutes to 2 hours with every, not every one new team member, but like by batches or 3 and 4. And I go through the history of the business and all these years and what we've done during all these years and why those values came to life and came to be, and how connected they are to who we are and how we build the business and the history of the business. And then I go through the values by giving very specific examples of how we apply them day to day. Like, I read the value title, but I don't read what it means and what it is and what you should do, all that stuff. They can read it themselves. But I give them specific examples. Oh, hey, this was a time where I did this and that was shitty. And that was not the value that the one who crafted. So I apologize. I did this, I did that. And then I never did that thing again, because I realized that it was not according to our value and I was an asshole and I shouldn't be. So basically, you got to lead by example and show people that values are something people aspire to and you yourself aspire to. And show them, I'm not perfect like you, but this value is important to me. And if at one point I am not living this value, and people, number one, you can tell me, and I expect you to tell me. And if you tell me and I'm realizing that, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to change my behavior, because that value is important to me. It's not bullshit on the wall. It's something that I care about. And I know I'm not perfect, so I will not be 100% living my life according to this value, but I do want to. So let me know when I don't, so I can correct course and show you that it's important. So that's what culture and value is all about. And you, the founder and CEO, you have to really embody the value and be the example of the person who feels, lives, and breathes the value, and show people that you're weak and sometimes you're not going to be great at that. But when it happens, you're not fleeing away from it. You're facing it, and you're recognizing your mistake. You're apologizing for them, and you improve and you make progress. And then you see the progress and say, "Oh my God!" When I tell him this, is listening, is promising to change, and he's actually changing. So that value is meaningful. It means something. It's not just piece of paper on the wall. So and you got to do that again and again and again and again. And as the company grows, you have new people. Like right now, since January 1st, I don't know, we hired 35 people, 40 people maybe. So all these people they don't know us. They have not been there while we were going through all this hardship and all these issues and Facebook contest and promotion story and all that stuff. So they join this company and they don't know what this company is all about. And then they see that we have values, but they don't resonate with them yet. So you have to constantly redo the value, re-insist, re-show, reprove, because these new people, they have to feel the same as the old people, as the one who have been living and breathing the value for 5 or 6 years. So it's a constant work you have to do again and again.
But once a leader proves that the employees can trust him or her, I think that it's much easier. And in your case, you build a lot of long-lasting relationships because of your not being ego and being a humble person. So going back to the hiring, I think that's also one of the key points when you hire people, that you already establish a brand of yourself, that people knows you when you go to the social media conferences, or if you go to SaaStock or any other conference, people that know you as a Emeric, as a CEO of Agorapulse, they know who you are. They know that people can trust you, and that you know all about it, not all about the transparency, but that you're really building a strong relationships. And from these relationships, I want to ask you that you were start building these relationships early, and you never had a like proper sales team, but now all the relationship that you had with the influencers and ambassadors, how did it work for you in the past, and what how do you work with the ambassadors, and what's the channel here?
Yeah, so from day one, I knew that we shouldn't be a French company. We had to be an international company, and we had to be an American company, or at least focus on the American market, which was the biggest market and the most mature and the richest one, especially in our industry. So what I did in the early days, I went to every single marketing conference in the US that had a social media component, or content marketing world, or social media marketing world, or um, um, marketing summits, online marketing institute, whatever it was. I went to all these conferences, and went to see the speakers and talk to them, and I by going again and again and again to these live events, and taking a flight in the hotel room, and going to the US probably every 2 months for 2 years. At one point, they people know you, because if those people, it's the same circle, so they are in the same conferences, and they go to the same places, and they have their own network and group of friends, and then little by little you get included in that group, because you're here all the time. And eventually, something I thought would be a problem, or a blocker, the fact that I was French and had the French accent and so on and so forth, actually it became a strength, because I was unique in a way. There were not a bunch of French people going around these marketing conferences in the US. So they were seeing me as their French friends, and they only had one, and it was me. So it helped. Um, so what it helped doing is definitely build relationship with people who had influence on our industry, and that definitely helped our marketing in the early days. Interestingly enough, at our scale today, it's not working anymore. It's too limited. It's too small. But I'd say from 0 to 3 million ARR, it was probably the best thing I did. But then, as always, it started to slow down, because we had to find another go-to-market strategy, and then the next worked, and then it slowed down again. We had to find another. So redefining your go-to-market, redefining how you attract the next cohort of customers to keep growing at a good pace is also a constant relearning and rewiring you have to make again and again.
Speaking about acquisition, so you mentioned previously that you you haven't had the proper sales team, so everything was inbound, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, why is that, and why did you decide to start building the sales team, let's say, so late?
Yeah, well, first of all, we had to have a sales practice, because we had to, because people were coming inbound and saying, I want to demo. Oh shit, I want to demo. Who's going to do the demo? Okay, I'll do the demo. So I did the first, I don't know, 100 demos. And then I got to, shit, I can't do demos anymore. I have too much on my plate. Someone else in the team is going to do demos. So Jenny started to do demos for us. And I delegated the demos, and then we had too many demos for even Jenny herself. So we hired the first someone who had never done sales before to do demos with Jenny, and then a second one, and then there were a team of 3, and then it grew organically from there. Kind of a necessity of coping with the incoming request for show me the product, answer my question, I need to talk to sales, that kind of stuff. But it was still inbound. The need or the realization that we got to switch from a pure inbound when we have a bunch of salespeople, but they answer to incoming requests, and we have to pivot and switch that to we need to build a sales practice that gets the business and bring the business back to us, is really a recent realization. It's probably like a Q4 2020 thing. It was not really a thing before the end of 2020. And the reason behind that is pretty simple. You get to a point, and I think for us, it all depends on your churn rate and the size of your market and the competition. So there are many factors that play, but depending on all these factors, you'll get to a point where growth will start slowing down. It's going to be harder and harder to keep growing at the same pace. When I say the same pace, is maintaining 30, 40%, 50% year over year. And you're going to see, we did 100% on year 1, and then 60%, and then 40%, and then 27%. At one point you say, okay, fuck, it's not going to work. We're going to get to a point where it's going to be 0% or 2% per year. It doesn't work. SaaS does not grow, right? SaaS grows. It's built and born to grow. If you're in SaaS and you're not growing, there's a problem, a fundamental problem with your model, with what you're selling in your market. Because of its recurring DNA, and if you do the right things and have the right product and sell it to the right audience, limited churn, then there's a compound effect of revenue adding to existing revenue, and growth has to happen. If it doesn't happen, then you have a problem. So when you see that growth going down, that means, okay, we have a problem with the way we acquire, who we acquire, and how we acquire the kind of people and how we do it. So what can we change? Can we do more blog posts? No, we can't. Can we do more countries, more language? We can, but that's very slow, very hard. We know we did French. After we did English, we did French, then we did Spanish, now we're doing German. And there is no miracle or recipe for fast. We're not going to own Germany in 1 year. I know that for a fact, because it didn't happen in France. It took at least 3 years, and in Spanish we're still struggling. So yes, there are many leverage you can use to grow an inbound practice, but if with the English inbound practice you're starting to slow down, don't fool yourself. Adding another country or another language is not going to save the day. What's going to save the day is having a different go-to-market strategy. Is say, okay, we did inbound until 15 million, 20 million, it worked fine. But now if we want to go to 50 million, i.e. more than doubling what we've done so far, inbound alone is not going to cut it. It's not going to work. What's going to work is higher price point, so high quality clients to whom we sell the product for more money, who churn less, and who we go and get to us. We can't, for those higher quality client, we can't just rely on, let's put a blog post out there and hope that they click on the link and start a free trial. It's not working. It doesn't work. So that's why late 2020 we decided that we need to build a sales practice that's good, that's mature, and that attracts the business, and not just rely on the inbound requests that we have.
And that probably came from the customer success. So you mentioned churn, you mentioned the right customers, you mentioned that you changed the pricing. So obviously you're going after another customer price base a little bit up. So you reduce churn from, I guess, 12% 5, 6 years ago to what's now. So
1.5.
1.5. Well, that's great. So I guess that's all about the customer success now, understanding which market are you targeting, and now you can put more focus on the sales and then building a sales team. Are you currently hiring in the sales department? I guess yes.
We're always hiring. Yeah. SDRs, account executives in the sales department. We're also always hiring support agents, support heroes, we call them. We're hiring, customer success managers. We're always out for talents, marketers. So like designers, when you see a talent, even if you're not currently hiring, and that talent is going to be game changing for you, you just go ahead and add them to the team.
We got a couple of questions from the audience too, but let me go first to my question. So it's fast forward now to what's on the horizon for Agorapulse in 2022.
What's on the horizon for Agorapulse in
Yeah,
2021?
what are your goals? So you mentioned, I heard like from 50 million to 50. What's your goal for the next couple of years?
Yeah, the big goal we have for the end of 2024 is to reach 50 million ARR. So that's our big hairy goal, BHAG, like they like to say. And obviously to get there, we are definitely investing heavily on our upmarket strategy, like how we can. Right now, our average revenue per account is 150 euros. We're aiming to get that to a 270, 280 euros in 3 years, basically. So just to give you context, Sprout Social is currently as €1,000 AR, average revenue per account. So aiming for 270 in 3 years is still reasonable compared to others who are really going high in the upper market, much higher than we are. We
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, we want to stay affordable for a mid-sized company like our size, like 100 people. We don't want to sell to the enterprise, to the Fortune 500, to this kind of clients because it's super difficult and we're not ready. But we definitely want to sell to, the bottom and middle of the mid market. So mid market is more than 100 people and more than 10 million annual revenue. And those are our ideal customer for now.
Yes, since you mentioned the pricing, and this is the question from the audience, you've changed the pricing and you A/B testing the pricing a lot in the past few years. Can you just explain us now why are you going and when and how you decide to change the pricing? As I remember, a couple of years ago, you had also the startup plan, or it was a free plan or something like that, and then you totally killed this.
Yeah.
What was the reason?
No, we have a free plan now. We relaunched a free plan. It's not on the pricing page because we're doing a test in June. So to get to the free plan, you have to start a free trial and then you'll downgrade to free at the end of your free trial. But in July, we're going to put the free plan again on the pricing page. The test will be finished by then. We never had a free plan. We had a very cheap plan. At one point, we had a $9 a month plan. That was a long time ago. And then we had a 29. We killed this one. Then we started at 49 and we killed it. And now we start at 99. Why do you decide to kill a 29 a month plan or 49 a month plan? You just look at the numbers and you look at the churn numbers and the amount of MRR you've gained through the year for each plan. And you look at whether or not this plan is worth keeping. Believe it or not, the 49 a month, obviously, the lower they pay, the higher the churn. That's a rule that's probably true for every business. If you sell a product at $10 a month, they're going to churn a lot faster and more than if you sell at 49. And the 49 are going to churn a lot faster and more than the 99 and the 99 and the 29 and so on and so forth. For our higher end plan, which average revenue is probably between 500 and 600, something like that, churn is negative. So we have net negative churn for that plan. But for the 99 net MR churn is probably like at 3% or something. So overall, we're at 1.5 and we're trending to zero because my goal is to get to net negative churn across the board by the end of 2024. But you got to be aware that if they pay little, they will churn a lot because the investment they make is not that important. So they say, let's put $49 and see what works. Oh, it didn't work. Let's cancel. And that's the kind of client you probably going to get in the early days because you need any kind of client, right? You need any money. Money doesn't have order, or you got to get cash, whatever it tastes or smells. When you get to a point where you have a couple million in ARR, you realize that those clients are going to kill you. So you got to get rid of them and kill the small plans. That's the lower end plans.
And it's also not about only about churn. It's also that your account managers have to do demo for this, let's say, startups. So they're spending time on, you spend time and money on support, you spend time and money on, let's say, sales. So it's not
demos.
only churn.
No demos for 49 a month. No demos for 99 a month. It's not worth it. It's a waste of time and money. A complete waste of time and money. At that kind of price point, you gotta have a product that people are gonna learn and start using on their own. Otherwise, you're doomed to fail.
Yeah, and if these customers are not satisfied, they will leave you the review on G2 and Capterra. So, I mean, there are a lot of problems, not only the churn. So,
absolutely.
Okay. Another question from the audience. What does work-life balance mean to you? You a couple of years ago introduced me to David Cancel, CEO at Drift, and he's also talking about lifetime balance. So I'm also interested.
What does he say? What does he say?
There is not such a thing as lifetime balance. If you love what you're doing, then this is your lifetime lifetime balance. Yeah, life work balance. Sorry.
Here you go. Here you go. You don't have lifetime balance, work-life balance when you're an entrepreneur or a founder. It doesn't exist. It's fooling yourself thinking that you can create a company and have the good life. It's not true. I mean, when I say the good life is take vacation all the time, go have fun with your friends at the evening, and feel free and wander around in nature. That's not true. You're always thinking about the business. You're always obsessed. So even when I'm on vacation, and I take vacation, I love kite surfing, as you know. So I take vacation to go kite. I take vacation with my wife and my sons because I have to and I want to as well. But even on vacation, I have my phone on me all the time. And you can see me on the beach somewhere in Brazil answering Slack messages at 3 p.m. So you never stop, you never disconnect, and your brain is always thinking about the business and processing information about the business. So the work-life balance people think about, i.e., I go home at 7 p.m. and I free up my mind and I can have fun, that doesn't exist. And in the early days of a business, like the first couple of years when you're not making money and you're working your butt off to get product market fit, you work 15, 16 hours a day. You work on weekends. I mean, let's face it, it's super hard.
Yeah, I mean, but what's wrong with thinking about your business all the time? I mean, if it's stressful, then maybe that's a problem that you have to address. But let's say that you are artist. They will also think about their work on the weekends, on maybe in the evening. So if you like what you do, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But if you have a significant other in your life, you got to make sure that they understand that and they're okay with that. Because if they don't, trust me, my ex-wife didn't like that. She didn't. She's my ex-wife. She couldn't cope with me being that, and she left. And I don't blame her, because you really have to be a strong woman or a strong man if the entrepreneur of the two is the woman. You have to be a strong partner and a strong person to accept that, understand that, accept that, and live with it. It's really tough. If my wife was always thinking about, I don't know, painting, because she loves painting and painting and painting and talking about painting and showing me painting, morning to evening all the time, I guess I could feel like, can we talk about something else? Can we do something else in painting? Can you stop watching painting on your phone when we're in bed? And that's me. That's who I am. That's what I do. So it takes a special person to be with you and accept that. That's for sure. And think about your friends.
Mm.
A lot of your friends are also not going to understand that. If they are not entrepreneurs themselves, they're going to think like, "Oh, Matik is always speaking about his business. Oh my God, doesn't he have something else? It's boring." And I don't understand these problems like churn. What does churn mean? Like, what does MR, AR, all that stuff? So there's not there's nothing wrong about it, but you have to be aware of the consequences.
Mm. Yeah. So we are running out of time. I would love to talk for an hour or more, but my last question is, Emeric, what does success means to you?
That's a very difficult question. That's a difficult question because where I am today, I would have thought 10 years ago was immense success, was amazing success. But I don't, that's not the way I see where I am today. That's not the way I see who I am, what I've done. Of course, I'm happy. Of course, I'm proud somehow, I guess. I have all the reasons of the world to be grateful for what I've built and what I have now. But the blessing and the curse of the entrepreneur is that is never or she's never satisfied. I think we all have that. We all share that. All the people I know who are entrepreneurs, we have that same thing. We have a hard time celebrating. We have a hard time being happy about what we've done. And we have to constantly remind ourselves, I have to be grateful. I have to be grateful. I have to thank, the Lord, whoever, for what I have and what I'm lucky to have built and so on and so forth. So that's something we have to constantly remind ourselves because it's not a reflex. It's not something that we do naturally. We're always looking at the next step, the next thing we can achieve, the next milestones we can get to. That's a curse because you're never in the moment enjoying what you have now. And if you are, you've worked on it a lot, like you've done a lot of Buddha stuff to get to in the moment and enjoying it, and you're always in pursuing the next thing and the next step. But it's also what makes you an entrepreneur. It's also what makes you eventually immensely successful because you're never satisfied. So look at Musk: build the first business, sell it, then did a second business, sell it, then the third, sell it, and now the fourth business. He wants to go to Mars. Like, if you had met Elon Musk when he was 19, Mars was not even a thing. Like, I'm pretty darn sure it was just thinking of getting his, yellow
PayPal.
pages on the web. But the first business he sold and was successful at, and growing and growing and growing, it grew his ambition and his vision for success. And his vision for success now is putting a foot on Mars. What kind of success is that? So it's a difficult question because you never feel successful. Let's put it this way. You always feel like there is something next that you can get to. So the honest answer I would give you is success is when you learn, success is when you grow, and success is when you feel surrounded that people that you are amazed to work with every day. That's
Yes.
success.
Especially this the latter one. Emeric, it was really a pleasure talking with you. Thanks so much for coming to the show. Wish you all the best with the business, and yeah, hope we can catch up soon.
Great. Thank you, Matik. I hope that was
Um,
helpful.
Thank you. Before we close this event, let me announce the next one. So, the last event of the summer session, we are hosting Peja Pedrin from South Central Ventures next week on June 30th at 6 p.m. local time. We will be discussing how to set up processes and your team after raising Series A. Thank you a lot. See you next week.